Story 1. I dated a 28-year-old man who had never kissed anyone else or been on a date before me. It did not work out, but it ended amicably. I think he was very used to and happy being alone, so being intimate with someone else may have been overwhelming for him at times. Otherwise, his lack of experience did not significantly affect our relationship. He is one of the most genuine and nicest people I know, and we are still good friends today. Story 2. I figured out even before we got together that he has been single because he is awkward, unsure of himself, and has never really put himself out there. But he is honestly one of the sweetest guys I have ever met. He is a good listener and is pretty in tune with his own feelings. I just feel really comfortable and happy in the 6 months we have been together. Of course, there are still some obstacles. He is still kind of awkward at times about being a boyfriend. While he is aware of his and others' feelings, I sometimes have to pry for him to open up about certain things. Story 3. Not me, but friends of mine. They met at a party I hosted. I was friends with both of them separately before they met. She was divorced or getting divorced amicably from her first husband. He had been single his whole life. They were both in their 40s at the time. They celebrated their 25th anniversary last month. Story 4. I am a man, but my partner has a disability that requires her to use a wheelchair. As a result, she had never been in a serious relationship before we met. She even had a big celebration for her 30th birthday because she believed she would never get married. 1 month later, we had our first date, and we recently celebrated our 5th wedding anniversary. Story 5. I think it really depends on the connection, but for many people, it has been a game changer. Sometimes it works out great, and other times it is just a learning experience. Story 6. We got married. I guess because he had not had a lot of experience in relationships, he did not know how to navigate certain challenges. This can also be argued because everyone is different, so you need to be prepared to stand back and be objective. Have really good communication, patience, and try not to take certain things too personally. Be careful with your expectations. He will need you to be direct with him, but also responsible and fair. Story 7. He thought nobody could love him. When we were together, he said we were two people that nobody could love. I did not want to share his misery. It ended very quickly. Story 8. I entered a relationship with a man who claimed to have been single for 10 years. What I did not know was that he had never been single. He simply did not consider those women actual girlfriends. It was not a good situation. Story 9. Love how the results here are either marriage or them turning out to be complete weirdos with no in-between. Story 10. In private, he was a sweetheart. Then we met his group of friends, all single men in their 30s, and he tried to belittle me and position himself above me in front of them, trying to show he was some sort of alpha male since he now had a girlfriend. At first, I thought it was insecurities or something. I excused him. I tried to talk to him about it. It did not change anything. So I put him back in his place and walked out, making sure to do it in front of his friends since they were apparently included in our dynamic. Story 11. He had a very strange idea of what women want and refused to listen to what I wanted. He did not respect boundaries. It ended badly. Story 12. I'm a single man. I have always been very insecure around women. I have had few and short-lived relationships throughout my life until I met her in my late 30s. A gorgeous woman who I do not know what she saw in me. She says that, like Jessica Rabbit, I make her laugh. We have been together for 8 years now and are married. She makes me feel like the happiest man on earth. Story 13. My friend married a pilot in his 40s who had never been married. They met at church. After marriage, he would not have sex with her, even though she was thin and beautiful by anyone's standards. She asked for reasons and wanted to start marriage counseling. He finally said the reason he would not have sex was because she was not close enough in her relationship to Jesus. It turned out he was a repressed homosexual. He never admitted it and was hateful during the divorce. Story 14. I was his first girlfriend at 26. Married by 28. Divorced at 41. Hopefully, his new boyfriend appreciates my efforts in raising him. Story 15. He had one long-term girlfriend 10 years ago in college, but nobody had warranted a second date since then. He was just selective and picky. No clue why he saw me and thought, that one right there, That nutcase is for me. We are very happily married. Story 16. Not well. All of his friends were so intrigued by me. I understood it as, who is this girl who finally made him settle? I felt like I was really special. They constantly told me how lovely I was and that they were happily surprised by our pairing. Again, I thought these were all compliments. It turns out their curiosity was actually, wow, I can't believe this racist, misogynist with an ugly temper and a drinking problem actually found a girlfriend. There must be something wrong with her. When his best friend tells you you're too good for him, run. Story 17. There was a reason he was single his whole life. Clingy, controlling, possessive. But once he got a girlfriend, he thought he was impressive and started trying to cheat. Then failed. Terrible. Story 18. Did it twice. The first time was absolutely horrific. The second time was great until we started actually planning our wedding 4 years into the relationship, and he felt he had not gotten to sow his wild oats. So it was also terrible. Story 19. Not necessarily single, but has not had a long-term or serious relationship. We are middle-aged. I was the first person he ever brought to Christmas, which shocked me. Then I found out from his childhood friend that he had not had anything long-term before. In a joking way and after too many beers, his friend said that nobody ever wanted to put up with him before and that he probably never wanted to celebrate birthdays or holidays before. I vaguely remember him saying something about this when we first got together, but I gave him trouble about it and it has not been an issue. I think deep down he felt like he was never good enough, so he did not even try. It is sad because he is such a good man. I think he just needed someone to love him and believe in him. It is going really great between us. He has shown he is not afraid to change and grow while still being true to himself. If anything, it just makes me admire him more because being capable of change is a huge deal. Story 20. I quickly found out why no other women would entertain him. Also, he was so addicted to animated adult content that he was upset my body did not have exaggerated physical features, but was absolutely upset when I told him he did not have the exaggerated anatomy that many unattractive male characters have in the animations. Story 21. I helped him get in shape, get into therapy for anxiety, move out of his parents' house, and get a better job with upward mobility. These were all things he wanted to do. I did not push him. He just did not know where to start. So I found resources and helped him. I encouraged him to feel good about himself and prioritized his needs and growth. I also paid more than my share of relationship expenses, as he was from a wealthy family and I did not want them to think I was a gold digger. In exchange, after 3 years, he said he never found me attractive and was only with me because I helped him. He hoped I would not mind if he went out and experienced other women because they found him attractive now. When I immediately packed up and left, he started crying about me being his best friend and asked how I could abandon him like this. Easily, as it turns out. I have not spoken to him since, and that was about 3 years ago. So yeah, it did not go well. Now I focus my energy exclusively on myself. No more helping people become the best version of themselves at my own expense. I hope he is living his best life, but he had better stay far out of mine. Story 22. He was not always single but only had short relationships. It was very tiring. They had many wonderful hours together. However, if something did not go exactly the way he wanted, he would sulk and not communicate for several days. The first time, I was surprised. The second time, I told him that it could not work like that in a relationship. After the third time, I ended the relationship. Story 23. Not a man but my friend who is like the most gentle giant ever. A total massive geek in a good way. Loves video games, board games, and science fiction, the works. He had never had a girlfriend and did not even have any casual relationships. He never brought it up, but I was always worried about him. He was and is very shy but truly the nicest person, absolutely huge, and does powerlifting. He suddenly and finally bumped into a girl we know back in the United Kingdom. There would never have been a situation where they would have met otherwise. It just happened by chance when he was picking up some items from our friend's house and stayed for food in Dungeons and Dragons. I was not there. They have been together now for a year and are like two peas in a pod. In hindsight, it almost seems blindingly obvious. Why were these two not introduced earlier? How did nobody see it? I know she had a string of insecure partners over the years, and now she is with Bear, his nickname, and she seems very happy. I could not be happier for them both. I have been back in the United Kingdom these past few weeks and saw them walking at Dunham Massey. Story 24. Married him in 2 years. He was incredibly shy and interested in mathematics. No girl had ever asked him about his math problems before. Once I did, he blossomed into a lovely person. Story 25. He was very clingy and constantly anxious about the relationship because he had never had anyone show interest in him like that before. Story 26. He is like a breath of fresh air. He trusted me from the start, not giving me grief about working late, and is incredibly thoughtful, taking the initiative to cook and clean. Things were going so smoothly that I almost thought I was wearing rose-tinted glasses. We completed a pre-marriage workbook that really gets to the nitty-gritty of whether we are compatible for marriage after 3 months of dating, defining the relationship. He is the type that, if he was ever betrayed or treated maliciously, he would never trust the same way again, so I am thankful that he will never have to experience that. Long story short, I married him. Story 27. He ghosted me and tried the "I will kill myself if you do not give me another chance" when I was already in a new relationship. Story 28. He put on a complete front of being the perfect boyfriend and managed to keep it up for over a year. In reality, he was completely incapable of expressing his own emotions or needs and secretly became overwhelmed expecting me to read his mind. It turns out he was actively planning our breakup for 6 months behind my back while talking about marriage and having us move in together. What a mess. After we broke up, all my friends told me they never liked him because he was very arrogant to them. Story 29. Not great. He was single because he was lazy, smoked too many drugs, and was generally an unproductive person who relied on his mother. Story 30. I did this twice. The first time it went very badly. The second time it went great. We are married and he is the greatest. Story 31. My mom was very happy after finding a man like that. They married after a year or two. I am grateful my stepdad treated her well. Story 32. Bad. Very bad. His insecurities led to many horrible behaviors and an inability to ever be truly happy, content, or truthful. Story 33. Well, we've been dating for about 6 months. He's 30 and was a lifelong virgin, never having been with a girl, and grew up shy. However, he met me after a transformation from the gym, and he is very confident now, unlike when he was a shy teenager. Whenever we have arguments, he always tries to understand my perspective and says he applies the relationship advice he has heard his whole life from people he looks up to. Generally, he has a heart of gold, so it doesn't matter that he has no experience. Story 34. Married him. We are expecting our first baby in a few months. He is the best and most loving person I could ever ask for. Story 35. It was not ideal. He kept using the excuse that this was his first relationship whenever he was not thoughtful or considerate, even though it was also my first relationship. We ended up breaking up and he almost entirely chickened out of it. To be honest, after that experience, I do not want to be someone's first girlfriend unless they seem like they can be a good partner. Story 36. This was me. Now 38. I never felt worthy of love. A lifetime of trauma and abuse taught me I was not deserving. 33. I got a dog. She saved my life and taught me I deserved happiness and love. 36. I met a man. He is amazing, and while homophobia is not eradicated, society is improving, and we are perfect for each other. I am the best I have ever been. I did not know what happiness felt like. I did not know if I would ever feel happiness. We got married 2 days ago, and when he wakes up, I am going to give him a Father's Day gift now that it is official. I can definitely understand the difficult stories previously shared. There is usually a reason why people are single for long periods. Story 37. Not me, but my sweetest, kindest friend. She had a series of terrible boyfriends before. One cheated on her for months, emotionally abused her, ignored her, and then dumped her on her birthday. I don't know where she found them. Then she met this guy, and he was the sweetest, kindest partner. She is marrying him in a few months. Story 38. This was an enjoyable read. Unsurprisingly, some of the men are unpleasant, while others were simply friendly and kept to themselves. Story 39. He asked me if it was hard for me to go shopping because I was overweight. I was average-sized. Edited to add, no, it was not a Napoleon Dynamite reference. Story 40. Restraining order. He was sweet enough and the date was not a disaster. After the date, I told him clearly that I had a lovely time but was not interested in a second date or anything more than friendship. He then proceeded to accidentally bump into me while I was shopping. He was seen outside my house in his car and waited outside my workplace. A couple of colleagues gently asked him to stop as he was making me uncomfortable. He said he did not mean to but did not change or stop his behavior. There was plenty of evidence, including CCTV footage and text messages. I was later granted a restraining order. Story 41. Gorgeous, caring relationship, but we ended up splitting because he was too risk-averse compared to my approach of act first, think later. My biggest takeaway was that he was very anxious to have any conflict with me, thinking it would end the relationship. This ended up causing significant communication issues. 6 very happy years, though. Story 42. The most abusive man I have met. When he got angry enough, even though he would not hit me, he would tell me that I should be thanking him for not doing so because any reasonable man would. Story 43. He was a huge creep with a pornography addiction, a fetish for a particular race, and Peyronie's disease. It turns out there was a good reason for his long streak of singledom. Story 44. Married him for 17 years. One advantage was that as a single man in his 40s, he was fully domesticated with no imbalance in household chores. Story 45. We just had our 2nd anniversary. We have decided to stay married for another 50 years minimum. The only serious debate we have ever had was over which one of us is luckier to have the other. I tell him often how sorry I am that he was lonely for so long, but I feel really blessed that he was still available when we met, closer to middle age than youth. I really do think that everyone who hopes to someday find their person is hoping and praying for someone exactly like who I got. It is just one of life's little jokes that I got him, because I genuinely was not looking. I am just smart enough to know a good thing when I see it. Story 46. Turned out amazing. He always tells me that he is lucky to have me because for him I am a 10. What he does not know is I am the luckier one because I met an 11, perhaps even greater than that. He is a green flag and the entire green forest. I'm so happy and loved. Story 47. He turned out to be a massive freak. When I wanted to break up with him because he was genuinely insane and I was scared, he lied about being diagnosed with cancer, knowing that I would feel bad about it due to losing family members to cancer before. He did it very convincingly. He even found a real doctor to support his claim. Crazy. Story 48. It was great for 3 months. Then he decided he preferred dating the local bar. He had always enjoyed his beers, but despite how consistently he pursued and courted me, even a low-pressure relationship was more than he could handle. So he went back to his nights at the bar, looking down his nose at the rest of the patrons, thinking he was better than them. He refused to acknowledge he was making a conscious choice to die of liver failure, alone in his apartment just like the rest of them. Story 49. Amazing, actually. We are moving in together soon and getting engaged soon. It is not a surprise we have to deal with visa processing, but I digress. He told me he had girls he was interested in and vice versa, but he never pursued anything beyond a date or two because a voice in his head always told him that she was not the one. He said that with me for the first time. He did not hear that voice, and it was the signal for him to go all in. Story 50. Married him. I claimed him first. He's mine. That's the rule of dibs. He was 34 when I was 39. He was on a health food kick and brought broccoli to work every day. Really every day. Then he would eat it all the way down to the stem. I assumed he needed something in his life because who does that? So I bribed him with lunch out. Over 4 years, he figured out that going out to lunch every day and going out to dinner and a movie once a month actually constituted dating. We still joke that we are just very good coworkers. Got engaged 3 years ago, built a house together, getting married next Christmas. All in all, it turned out pretty well. Story 51. Single for a good reason and came with wildly unrealistic expectations about relationships. Basically wanted a dominant partner to help him manage his relationships and submit around the clock. Story 52. I gave the typical never had a girlfriend a chance at 28. At first, it was nice, very attentive, detailed, and you could tell that he wanted to do everything right. I felt like I was his first love because, well, but over time, I realized something. When someone has never been in a relationship, they not only lack romantic experience, they also lack emotional peace. He didn't know how to communicate. He didn't understand that love doesn't always feel like a movie, and he took everything as criticism or personal rejection. It was like teaching someone to swim while we were drifting in a boat. A lot of emotional burden, a lot of pressure, and little balance. It wasn't a disaster, but it was exhausting. I learned that it doesn't matter if you've had 1,000 partners or none. What matters is your emotional maturity and your willingness to grow. Story 53. It is just that for many people, this opportunity occurs earlier in life rather than later. There is nothing wrong with not having had that opportunity before. There is also nothing wrong with being single until later in life. Story 54. He had never dated anyone else and said it was because he was a nerd. It turns out he was just a jealous person with a large, unusual family. Goodbye. Story 55. As a man who was mostly single until the age of 36, she married me. She believed me when I said I had stayed single because I am not interested in casual relationships. Story 56. Horribly. He thought I was his whipping post for every slight he had ever experienced because he was just a nice guy and did not deserve people not giving him a chance. He completely took me for granted and constantly talked as if he was still being forced to be single. This was before involuntary celibates were a recognized group, but he was one of the originals. Story 57. It finished quickly, not due to lack of experience or feeling, but because of the traumas and insecurities he had that I could not resolve and were too heavy to sustain a relationship. He could not love himself, and I did not realize that this kind of problem would weigh so heavily on a relationship to the point it was hurting me. He refused help and the opportunity to get help. I hope he is okay. He was the sweetest soul I met. Story 58. He would not open up. I did not know anything about his private life. He was okay, kind, but it just did not work out. I think he liked the fact that I liked him more than he liked me. Story 59. I'm reading these comments like, wait, women actually give you a chance if you've been single your whole life? Story 60. I feel there can be several reasons why a man has been single for so long. While there are definitely difficult stories, I took a chance on mine 21 years ago because tall, nerdy men are my weakness. It turned out depression and low self-esteem were the causes, but he was willing to work on himself, and I was willing to support him because I knew he was worth it. It was the best decision I ever made. We just celebrated our 9th wedding anniversary. Story 61. I took a chance on a man who had never had a serious relationship. At 25, he had only had sexual experience once before. He was inexperienced both sexually and in relationships, and it showed. He was not good at conversations, showing interest in my life, being considerate, or maintaining cleanliness in his home. I think he was so happy to finally have a girlfriend that it did not really matter who I was. I gave him a 3-month chance and saw no improvement, so I ended the relationship. Story 62. We are 21 months in now and living together. He has been patient and gentle dealing with me in general and the damage done by my last partner, who was with me for 12 years, involving domestic violence and sexual assault. His hugs put me back together. His quirkiness and great sense of humor keep me laughing every day. He does have a certain naivety about relationships, and I see how others could easily take advantage of people with no dating experience. That same naivety is also nostalgic and whimsical in a way to me, and I find it endearing. I think not dating until he was in his late 20s and I picked him out, made it so he isn't cynical about the dating world. He trusted me with his heart from the beginning. I didn't have to break down any walls. He didn't have any trauma from past relationships to get through, and we don't have to worry about any crazy exes on his side either. With this said, he made it clear in the beginning that he has healthy boundaries and expectations. I think most women appreciate men like that. He has allowed me to grow and blossom in ways I didn't know were possible for me. Every day is a new challenge, but every day we are there as a team to take it on. He is the best. Story 63. The fact he, 25 years old, had not been in a relationship before me did not bother me. Everyone has to start somewhere. I ended up marrying him, though. It is hard to resist someone who thinks you are the best thing since sliced bread. Story 64. I married him, and it has been amazing. He is handsome, smart, educated, kind, respectful, funny, and I am so lucky. He has no relationship baggage and never plays games. He says what he means, end of story. He is so psychologically healthy that he should really be studied. I have never met someone with such bulletproof self-esteem who is not also a complete psycho. Some of these perpetually single men are just overgrown children or have crippling insecurities that keep them from dating. My husband is demisexual, and I suspect he is on the autism spectrum as well. He has never been interested in hookups or casual dating and was also kind of clueless when women expressed interest. He has told me stories about past interactions, and I have had to inform him that women have been hitting on him for years. He was shocked because he thought all these women were just being nice. Story 65. Not me, but my sister. Everyone thought, and mostly still thinks, he was a lovely guy. I believe that is genuinely because people felt so sorry for him that they could not comprehend him being a nasty, entitled little person. He pursued her for years, and when she had a bad breakup, the stars aligned, and she gave him a chance. Looking back, I do not think he was really pursuing her. He never made much of an effort. As soon as he had her, it seemed like he lost interest. Everyone would comment on how sweet it was that he waited, and my sister honestly felt like she owed it to him. Almost immediately, she discovered that he was subscribing to many OnlyFans creators and having casual conversations with them every day. He begged her for another chance. She caught him again a few months later. Then he started getting nasty and controlling. He hit her more than once, including in public, escalating to eventually choking her. He gaslit her daily. He kicked in doors, took her phone when he was upset, and got them into more and more debt because he mismanaged finances terribly. His full list of character flaws is too long to list, but among them was his complete lack of personal hygiene. He was absolutely disgusting, going over 2 months without showering at a time. He washed his clothes occasionally but left them damp, and the whole house constantly smelled of a strange musk. She felt completely betrayed because they had been friends for years, and she thought he would be different after a string of abusive partners. She desperately wanted him to be the person she thought he was. I told her to come stay with me for a while and tell him that he needed to make changes, or she was leaving for good, to get some distance from him. This was before I even knew about any of the abusive behavior. She started telling me exactly how badly he had been treating her, and I told her she should not go back. She said she had tried to break up with him before, and he had threatened to kill himself. That is abuse as well. And he did exactly what she said he would. Nearly 9 months later, she is still with me. It has taken up most of my focus every day trying to make her feel safe and ensuring she stays away from someone who I truly believe could have killed her. I am not saying this to make it about me, but rather to emphasize how much support people who have suffered abuse may need. It is not as simple as saying you are there if needed. Sometimes you have to be persistent because abused people often feel like a burden and do not ask for help. I have had my eyes opened to how poorly many men are willing to treat women, and I have come to understand that abuse does not always mean physical violence. Yes, logically, I know emotional abuse is damaging, but seeing it happen up close helped me understand it much better. All kinds of abuse are bad, but someone who is unintentionally yet knowingly abusive can be a slow burn insidious type because it is less obvious. Many people without experience struggle to understand why victims return to their abusers, sometimes doubting victims or blaming them for their part. I encourage everyone to consider how prolonged mental and physical abuse can affect someone's mind. They will not act rationally. If you have a relative or friend you suspect is struggling, please reach out. Chances are they will not come to you first. I would also add that many men are victims of abuse. I have been. But I truly believe there is such a prevalence of abusive behavior from men toward their partners that it is almost a crisis. Even many so-called good men fall into abusive patterns partly because they lack the perspective or self-awareness to understand how bad their actions are or to recognize toxic behavior in their friends or family and excuse it. Story 66. She married me nearly 3 years ago, so I have to assume she is happy. That said, there were definitely behaviors of mine early on for which I would not have blamed her for deciding I was not worth it. I do not think I have ever been a full-on creep, but my attitudes towards women and pornography were definitely less wholesome back in the day, part of the self-perpetuating cycle of singleness. She gave me a more personal outlook on issues from a feminist perspective, and I have definitely grown more depth as a person because of her. Story 67. He broke up saying he was jealous of me as a woman because I apparently can get sex from whoever I want, and that he thinks that because he got me, he can probably get other girls too now. He wanted to mess around before marriage but told me that if I wanted to get married, he could marry me after messing around. I was heartbroken. Well, he did mess around and find out, I guess. As rumors say, he never found someone else. Now he is in his 40s, bald, has no kids or wife, and almost no friends. Still complaining about not getting women. Me? I married a beautiful person and had kids. Story 68. My husband was 45 when we married. He had never had a relationship longer than 7 months before. We have been married for 7.5 years. It is going great. He had a lot of catching up to do on the "we are a team, you are not just by yourself anymore" aspect. He also had a lot of baggage to unpack because his late mother was mentally unstable and affected him. I had some baggage from my previous husband and late husband as well, so we have worked through a lot together. He is generous, hardworking, brilliant, and a great guy. I will take introverted and socially awkward any day. Story 69. How about a response from a man who had been single his entire life and then someone gave him a chance? We have been married for about 5 years now and have a 4-year-old child. My first relationship was when I turned 37. I swear I did not work at an electronics store, and she was not running an online store. I was single during high school, college, and early professional life. Anxiety, self-doubt, and lack of confidence led to a completely antisocial life. No real friends, no life. All responsibility points to me. I am not blaming anyone. When I was about 36, I decided to make a change. I quit my job, sold or gave away everything, and moved to New York. This sounds like a sitcom, but in my mind, I had to be in a place with so many activities that I could not avoid them. I joined a Master of Business Administration program and started taking part in activities. I met a woman at a lecture about ancient Roman history. Universities host guest lecturers all the time, and they are open to everyone. That led to my first relationship. It was okay. I never really connected well with her. She was too social for me. Well, 2 or 3 relationships later, I met my now wife at a work event. We did not work together. We worked in the same line of work. Someone I knew at the event told me that the woman over there was asking about me. I kept waiting for a chance to introduce myself to her. Eventually, she got up, sat down next to me, and introduced herself. We started talking, then meeting up outside of work events, and 6 months later we were married. It has been going well so far. Story 70. I did back in college. I went out with him even though I wasn't attracted to him just because he asked. I became his emotional punching bag, especially whenever he got drunk. He hated that I was attractive since he wasn't. He also hated that I was doing well in academics because he wasn't. Something about a man's pride, I don't know, it just felt strange that his self-esteem was predicated on me being inferior to him. He assumed every person I interacted with was out to steal me away from him. He even got unbearably jealous of my 2-year-old niece when I called her adorable. He didn't know how to get his point across without belittling me or using insecurities to guilt-trip me into admitting I was wrong. He threatened to kill himself when I wanted to break up after just 3 months because I couldn't stand the emotional volatility anymore, then stalked me for years after that in an attempt to get me back. He even tried to use my other female friends in college to talk me into getting back with him. They didn't know he was abusive and were appalled the moment they learned why I refused. After I was finally able to get him out of my life, I promised myself I would no longer go out with a person unless I was actually attracted to them. I rejected other men who showed interest in me after that because I found none of them attractive, even though they were smart, friendly, and well-adjusted for our age. Then I started wondering whether I actually found any men attractive at all. I didn't even know what my standards for men were, just that no one ever met them and that I dated people anyway because I wanted to feel normal. 6 or so years later, I happened to read up all about competitive heterosexuality, then realized I was gay all along. Story 71. Turns out being addicted to pornography, and without a partner for over a decade, can potentially create habits that are difficult to break and deficits that are hard to correct. Although, I suppose lacking empathy and being egocentric does not help. Story 72. Terrible. He was single because he had been a professional athlete and was constantly on the road competing or training. He fell hard and fast in the relationship and did not have great boundaries. I was not great either, though. Some of it was just bad timing and some of it was incompatibility. I felt like he was so used to controlling every aspect of his life that he could not really relax. Story 73. My ex was mostly very sweet and kind, but he was so inexperienced it led to insecurity, and it was frustrating. For example, when I shared with him that I had been sexually abused in a previous relationship, he became strangely jealous because it meant I had a previous partner. I know he didn't mean to be hurtful, but it was incredibly hurtful. He would get jealous easily, not aggressively, but in a sad way, so I would have to comfort him over really basic things. Also, he didn't know what he wanted. After a couple of years of dating, it was clear to me we had a few major compatibility issues, but he didn't understand why they were so important. One was taking the next step, moving in together and getting engaged. I was a little older and more experienced, so I was ready, but he wasn't. The second was that he wanted children, although he wouldn't admit it, and I did not. When I ended the relationship, I tried to explain these things to him, but he didn't want to accept it because he just wanted to stay together. Story 74. He is the most genuine person ever, and we are still very good friends. He learned a lot about himself throughout our relationship, which led to incompatibilities we could not compromise on. So we ended things but remain best friends, supporting each other and roommates, actually. Story 75. Well, he has had only one girlfriend before me, but the gap between the breakup and dating me was about 5 to 7 years. He is adorable, by the way. He was hesitant to make the first move because he did not want to come off as a creep, and he even wanted to have a courting period. I have fun with him because I am such a flirt, only with the person I am dating and no one else, and he gets very appreciative and flustered every time. Because of his limited dating experience, he really puts effort into gestures like flowers and dates. Story 76. As my very long and awful ex-relationship was ending, I chased him down. I was determined to let him know I see him for who he is, and I do. Now he is mine. We will see where it goes from here. Story 77. Before I even got to give him a chance, he started making strange comments about overweight people when we both were overweight, about my ex who looked similar to him, and about his last job and how he got fired for playing a prank on a girl. He was under her desk to surprise her, but after he started stalking me outside of work and found where I lived, I suspected he was under her desk for other reasons. As I tried to distance myself from him, his behavior worsened and escalated into sexual harassment. After he found where I lived, things became confusing for me because I have dissociation disorder. I realized why he was over 30 and single. He was creeping on 20-year-olds like me at the time. Story 78. He is the love of my life. He is emotionally mature, loving, caring, communicative, giving, and the best person I have ever met. Story 79. I am with someone who had never had a relationship or sex before me. We will be together for 10 years this January. Successful relationships require open and honest communication. If you cannot be vulnerable and communicate, it will not work because there are times when guidance is needed, and it must not involve taking advantage of the inexperienced person. Our relationship has faced challenges, but all relationships do. We are very happy, and it gets better each year. Story 80. Awful. He had no idea how to be in a relationship, including give and take, so he was incredibly selfish and self-serving. He also had many terrible opinions about how women are, even though he never spent any time with any. He treated me like an accessory. Story 81. I dated a man who was 30 and had never had a girlfriend or even kissed a woman. We have been married now for almost 4 years. I cannot lie, the first few months of us dating were pretty awkward, and I seriously considered breaking up with him. However, I kept asking myself if it would really be worth it to give up on the whole relationship just because he was inexperienced with dating. We had some awkward conversations, worked through them, and now I have the sweetest man by my side. Story 82. My husband was very shy and overweight. He had one girlfriend who is now his best friend along with her husband and had sex once. He is a fantastic husband in person, very considerate of others, romantic, sweet, and silly. His only issues were that his room was a disgusting disaster, and he had some bad habits from being a bachelor. Mostly, he would get overwhelmed by his stuff and become paralyzed to do anything about it. I give him his own space to be messy without nagging him, but I offer help when he wants to clean up. He is actually more social than I am now, mostly because my job uses up my social energy, and he is working on losing weight. I never asked him to. This is something he wants. Story 83. Happily married and have 2 beautiful children. He had never had a girlfriend until I came along. Casual hookups? Plenty. A few dates here and there? Absolutely. But a long-term girlfriend? No. I had been single for around 4 years and was starting to think I was destined to be alone for the rest of my life. We hooked up, started a friends with benefits arrangement, then just decided that we would like to try dating. Best decision ever. Story 84. It went horribly, and he passively shamed me for being in relationships before him while simultaneously placing all of the responsibility on me, saying I should know how things go in a relationship since I have been in one before. It lasted 3 months. Story 85. In the end, it was discovered that being single for a long time does not equate to a significant problem, and personality and sincerity are the key factors. Story 86. Great. We have been married since 1998. We have 2 grown children and love just being around each other. Working from home was a godsend. I met him when I was 23 and he was 27. He had never been on a date before. It turns out he is slightly autistic, but would never have been diagnosed in the past because it is subtle. He just did not know how to navigate dating. We were set up because his best friend was married to my cousin, and they thought we should date. I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, so it just works for us. Most people think we are an odd match. I am charismatic and he is stoic. We balance each other. Story 87. He was actually asexual and aromantic but did not want to admit it or maybe did not have the language for it. He had sexual desires but experienced no attraction to anyone, male, female, or other, so it took a while to reveal itself and fully unpack. He felt like he loved me, but when we unpacked it, it was really just friendship. We were good friends and still are good friends. He also always had parasocial relationships with his followers and female friends in many countries and states. I genuinely do not think he realizes how intimate those relationships are because he kind of innately love bombs people and shares really personal information with everyone. But again, he is asexual and aromantic, so he assumes others do not feel anything because he does not feel anything. During our relationship, I realized there was no real intent there. It was all a kind of stage play for him, but I do not think he recognizes it himself or understands the potential for harm because he simply cannot experience what other people experience. Story 88. His first girlfriend found out he spent his student loans on his prostitute addiction and buying lightsabers. She broke up with him as soon as possible when she realized how bad things were. Story 89. He could not handle giving affection. He thought it was unethical to give too much, and people should be happy without positive affirmations. I became very insecure in the relationship. We broke up. Story 90. I will never do it again. He seemed normal at the beginning, but he did not know how to talk to women besides having a big sister. He was straight up mean and blunt all the time. When I felt down, he did not support me and just said, "That's life." And he knew why I felt ugly under a specific light in the bathroom. It happened all the time. No thanks. It was like being together with a cold stone. Story 91. Whenever I give someone a chance in a situation like this, it ends with me at a deficit. One may think because someone is inexperienced, not the best looking, or has some situation to overlook, they would be kind and empathetic as you are being. Now, the unattractive, poor, and unfortunate are just as self-entitled as the handsome, wealthy men. Story 92. I am the person who has been single my whole life. I was 26 years old. We met while traveling, hit it off, and decided to try a long-distance relationship. We visited each other every few months. Eventually, I moved to her country, and we have been happily married for 6 years. Story 93. My ex, 35 years old, ghosted me a couple of weeks after our 1-year anniversary. Keep in mind, I knew his whole family and he knew mine. After a week, I texted his mother, with whom he lives. About 30 minutes later, he sent me a short text saying he was sorry for how he acted. He said he is not good at breaking up with someone and that it is time for him to be single. Okay. Story 94. He broke up with me for someone closer to him. He tried to find a way to blame me and came up with bizarre reasons, saying I must be cheating and that he couldn't look at me anymore. However, he was actually cheating on me with her. He just didn't want to admit it. Oh well. Story 95. Really great guy. He built a shrine to me in his bedroom surrounded by pictures of wedding venues, and his parents demanded that we break up. Later, they tried to insist that we get back together. I was not interested in having them as in-laws. I am still friendly with his siblings when I see them. He got married 2 years later. His mother thanked me for teaching him how to start a relationship. Story 96. Well, it will be 8 years together this September, so I would say pretty good. We met on World of Warcraft, kind of trauma-bonded in Mythic Raiding, which is basically 20 people working together to kill the hardest bosses in the game. He took a long time to get to know. He spent about a year as an acquaintance, another year as a friend, and I woke up one morning reaching for my phone to see if he had messaged me and realized, oh no, I've caught feelings. I flew out to see him and finally learned his real-life name about 6 months after we confessed our feelings. We both were 28 at the time. I moved in with him about a year and a half later. He is a good-looking guy and very sweet, just shy and oblivious. He had previously been on a handful of dates but never got a second, and had not slept with anyone. He still never notices when he is being ogled or flirted with. It has become the best relationship I have ever had by far. He is one of maybe 2 or 3 people I can truly be myself with. Story 97. We've been best friends for over 5 years. I am a bit socially awkward and quiet, and he is very emotionally stoic and quiet, so we always meshed well. He was also good at keeping himself inside a shell, so I never saw him as someone romantic. He has never dated anyone or talked about romantic interests. We would lose touch and reconnect every so often, but I tried everything I could to keep him around this last time. We became closer and spent every day together doing anything. The closer we got, the more intimate we became, and I slowly helped break him out of his shell. Throughout that time, we started having deep talks about how we felt. It turns out we both had feelings for each other since we met that would come and go each time we lost touch and reconnected. But we were both clueless and unsure, although he was more closed off. We both thought the other person could never be interested. We have been officially dating since Friday, December 13th of last year. We now talk about moving in together and getting married after I finish college, hopefully on another Friday the 13th. He is still my best friend, but now he is also the love of my life. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.